Welcome to a new reading vlog where I'm going to be reading 3 new mystery thriller horror books. We are still in the midst of Escape the Readathon, which is a month-long readathon going on in the month of May that was created by Lexi from Books with Lexi. I will have all the info about that linked down below if you want to check it out and see what's going on if you are not in the loop. But that means I have a lot of reading to do, and especially I have a couple arcs that I need to knock out. So in this video, I will be reading 3 new books that are across the mystery thriller and horror genre and letting you know my early opinions about them. Good morning. Last night I started The Eyes Are the Best Part and I got 35% into it, which is the first 20 chapters. This book has the teeniest, tiniest little chapters, and it just makes you feel like you're so much farther in the book because you're like, how have I gotten through 20 chapters, but I'm only 35% of the way through, when sometimes 20 chapters is like the entire book. But if you like teeny tiny chapters, I guess that will be good for you. This book is a horror book. It is a debut from this author, and it is following this family. Mainly are following this 18-year-old girl slash woman. I guess 18 is a woman. The main character is named G1, and she is going through a lot of change in her life in this moment. It starts when her father leaves her mother. Seemingly out of nowhere, he lets their mother know that he is interested in someone else, and he leaves the marriage, he leaves the house, and the mother is distraught, and G1 is kind of left to pick up some of the pieces of that. She also has a younger sister who I think is 16, just a little bit younger than her. And G1 is also starting in college at a local place, and she's having a hard time. She recently had a fracture with her friends from high school because they all got into a different college and they were going somewhere else, and so she's just at this really rough point in young adulthood. The synopsis of this book frames this as the picture of the formation of a serial killer. So you know she's not going to be on the best path. Right now, 35% in, she's starting to become obsessed with eyeballs. And that's all I know about the story. I think that's kind of it, is that you're following her be obsessed with eyeballs and become a serial killer. Seems like a pretty straightforward synopsis. It seems like it's going to be a pretty straightforward book. I'm intrigued at this point. The eyeball thing doesn't make a ton of sense. Like, I don't really fully get it. I personally hate eyeballs. Whenever there's anything to do with eyeballs in horror movies, horror books, I can't look at it. I can't read it. Eyeballs freak me out. I don't even like watching people put their contacts in. I get really squeamish from eyeballs. And the book opens with her mom eating the eyes out of fish. And she's like, the eyes are the best part of cooked fish. And she's eating the eyeballs. And there's so much description of the eyeballs. It's so gross. And now this main character is becoming obsessed with eyeballs. Her mom starts dating this new guy, and she particularly starts being obsessed with his eyeballs. She's having dreams about eyeballs. She's thinking about eyeballs. It's about eyeballs. So far, the writing style, I'm not connecting with a ton. It has a little bit of a detached feel to it, which makes sense for the nature of the story, being following this character who's going to be in this little bit of, spiral or descent into murdering. The horror part of it is certainly effective in grossing me out, because I'm personally so affected by the thought of eyeballs. But 35% in, I'm not feeling like this is going to have a ton of potential for me. I don't think I'm gonna love this because I'm just not getting ridiculously invested, and I think a lot of that has to do with the writing style. So I mean, I like it, I'm intrigued, I'm curious to see where it's going to go, especially if she starts going on a killing spree. That could be fun. But again, I've had some issues with female serial killer books where I just don't get as obsessed with them as a lot of people do. So anyways, early impressions are, it's okay. I'm gonna keep reading. I feel like it's gonna fly through. I only have 2 hours left in the book, so I honestly might finish the book before I talk to you again, because it is pretty short and reads pretty fast with these teensy tiny little chapters. So I'll keep reading. I will let you know how that's going. As far as how Escape the Readathon is going, today is Monday, and I feel like our weekends are extra chaotic because people are reading a lot, so there's things happening more on the weekends. The week, at least early in the week, tends to chill down a bit. I say that one weekend. All I have is 1 week of data, but it seems like the beginning of the week may be a bit more chill. So I'm hoping for a little bit of a calmer day so I can get through this book. I do have a feeling that in about 2 days, we've got some chaos coming for us again. So I'm gonna relish in this moment, a little bit of relaxation, casually make my way through this book, and hope it improves for me. Okay, I survived. I finished The Eyes Are the Best Part. It made me so nauseous at times. I don't often feel nauseous reading books, but eyeballs in particular, they really get me. And I should have, thought about that more going into this book. It was very obvious what this book would be about. And there were some scenes that made me very queasy and that I'll be thinking about for a while. It's all related to eyeballs. There's no surprises in here. It's eyeballs, but ugh, so gross. I am going to give this book 3 stars. I did not love it. I did not hate it. I ended up feeling pretty neutral about it. I think I was just expecting a bit more from the book. I think I said this before, but it's pretty much just what the synopsis lays out for you. You're watching this young adult go through this tumultuous time in her life and start to have an obsession with eyeballs and start to veer towards violence. There's not a lot of surprises. It's pretty obvious where the story is going to go. There's a little bit of like a mystery and a reveal at one point of a small little thing that's going on that I thought was very obvious where that was heading. The way the book wrapped up felt like it was perfectly tied in a bow. Like I could see exactly how this character was going to get out of her situation. So it just ended up feeling pretty standard for me. The most effective part of it was how disgusting it made me feel, and the portrayal of what it's like in general just to be like an 18-year-old girl trying to figure your life out. A lot's changing. You feel this responsibility as the eldest daughter. Like there's a lot of relatability in the main character, except for the fact that she becomes obsessed with eyeballs, which like I couldn't be me. But she's struggling a lot with her relationship with her mother and how her mother's acting as her mother's going through a difficult time, and the difficult balance that that creates for her. Being this like 18-year-old oldest daughter, wanting to protect her sister, having this sort of codependent relationship forming with her mother, where her mother should really be able to take care of her own problems, but like it's just making things worse for her. That I thought was very real and portrayed well. But in general, as a horror book, I thought it was just okay. Definitely won't be a favorite of the year for me. I do think this is the author's debut, so I'll keep an eye out for whatever they do next. I don't know if I will definitely pick it up, but if it sounds interesting, maybe I will. Okay, hello. I'll do a quick update before I go live because I'm getting ready to go live for some reading sprints on my channel for the Escape the Readathon. I did start the Body Harvest last night. I did not read very much of it because I just wasn't really getting into it. There's a lot of stuff in here right now, but I'm 22 pages in, so I just barely got started with it, and the writing style is pretty tough for me to get into. In general, it just feels very dreadful too. There's a lot of despair and it just feels kind of depressive to read, and I've been in a lighter mood recently with my reading. I don't know if this is gonna mesh with me because I haven't been like super excited to pick it back up, but I'm getting ready to go into reading sprints, so it's really now or never. I'm gonna try to read more of it. We'll see if it catches my attention once I get further in. What this story is about is these two characters named Will and Olivia, and they're both a mess. It says Will is a fraud and Olivia is a wreck. They end up meeting at this grief support group, and they're both into strange things. The strange thing that they're into is getting sick. Like if someone's coughing or sneezing, they want to go lick their doorknob, literally to contract that illness. That is what gets them up in the morning. So you can probably imagine following characters like that is an interesting lens of depravity to be in. This book has been said to be for the TikTok generation. I did not know what that meant. I thought maybe this would be about TikTok, parasocial relationships, social media. I think what it means is it's trying to be the type of book that can go viral on Book Talk, specifically in the horror community. And so far, conceptually, with that idea, that does sound like an idea that people would be like, oh my gosh, you have to read this book, it's so crazy. But so far the writing style has not gotten me pulled into it enough. I'm only 22 pages in. Maybe it'll get better, but I did read the other book from this author, Anybody Home, a couple years ago when that came out. And again, that one has a really cool concept and it does interesting things in the structure of that, but the writing style is a little bit weird to get into with that one as well. But I was able to read that whole book, so maybe I'll be able to push through this. We shall see. I'm gonna hop into reading sprints and I'll let you know what I end up doing. Good news, I have been making it through The Body Harvest. I keep forgetting the name of this book. I'm about halfway through, maybe a little bit more than halfway through, 106 pages in. It did pull me into the story more. The plot got me more intrigued. We introduced a new character. We introduced a little bit of a journey because Will and Olivia received this message, and this is in the synopsis, from this organization called The Source, and it's an online community of people who are just like them, who just want to be sick, and they meet this particular person and things get weird. Things have been very weird. I was pretty confused for a while. To be honest, I'm still confused. I don't know that I fully understand what's happening. I think that is intentional. I hope I get a better grasp in the remaining part of this book as to what's going on. But there's a little bit of like playing with what's real and what's not. I wasn't expecting it. It's throwing me off. I also put this little sticky in here to read this description to you about how they describe these people, because I cannot fathom wanting to be sick. Anytime I'm sick, I just think about how I took every moment of health for granted. You know, when your like nose is stuffy and you can't even remember what it's like to breathe normally, or your nose has been running for a week and you're like, I don't even remember what it's like to live without a running nose. Like, I'm that type of person. I would never wish to be sick. And especially they mentioned COVID in the book in this time. And I don't know. It's just like, why would you wish illness, especially illnesses that could kill you, that have killed a lot of people? Why would you wish that upon yourself? This is how it's described in the book. I looked it up to see if this is a real thing, real group of people. I didn't find anything, so I don't think this is a real thing. But in the book, the community, and this is just, you know, page 40. This is very early introduced. It's in the synopsis. There's this organization called The Source, and it says viral athonites. So athonites is in like to have an affinity for, I suppose, viral illnesses is how they describe these people. Viral athonites, the Source's terminology for what both Will and Olivia called virus chasers. Here's a good spot to explain the origin of the term. A viral athonite isn't necessarily merely a chaser, rather it's a living being, often a human being, that seeks out affliction. Far beyond Munchausen syndrome, the viral athonite is one that has taken the affliction, be it viral, bacterial, or other, as a personal crusade. The viral athonite sees the parasitic as a platform of power. And there's a lot of talk about power in this book, and the concept of why these people want to get sick, I think, is to prove that they can overcome it. It's like a award for them, like, oh yeah, I had that horrible disease and made it through that one. Also mentioning Munchausen syndrome. Munchausen syndrome is related to wanting to be ill as well, kind of, but that's more driven by like being rewarded by the personal attention of people thinking you're sick, and that is more related to, I believe, pretending to have conditions, illnesses, versus actually trying to contract them. But maybe there's a little bit of a blurry line in there as well. So anyways, that is the group of people we're following in this book. The writing has gotten a little bit less stuffy, I think is a way to describe it. The beginning just felt a little bit stuffy, a little bit thick to get through for some reason. It is a little bit of a weird writing style. You can even tell from that paragraph I just read how the narrator kind of speaks to you for a second and says, here's a good spot to explain the origin of the term. That happens a couple times throughout the book, a little bit of a breaking of the fourth wall. Not a ton. I've read books that do a ton of breaking of the fourth wall. I love breaking of the fourth wall, but this book isn't entirely framed as a breaking of the fourth wall where the narrator is constantly interrupting you in the narrative. It's just every so often a sentence here or there where there's a little bit of that. I kind of like that because it makes you feel like there is this sense of impending doom. Like this is all telling you how we got to this point of disaster. And it's the narrator in the future being like, and you're gonna understand that later. Like this is an important part of the story so you understand how we got to where we're going. So all in all, I am more into the story. I cannot say I'm enjoying it because it's disturbing. It's making me feel gross. There's body horror. There's some torture. There's some grossness in the book, and just describing illnesses in general, also kind of gross, but it is effective because it's making me like, ugh, and I think that's what it wanted to do. So it's doing that. I hopefully can finish this tonight and then give you a final update in the morning on my final rating. Hey, it's a couple days later. And I'm actually DNFing this book, and it's actually a little ridiculous because it's a short book, and look how far I got into it. I only have this much left and I'm still DNFing. I can't do it. I would say probably the last 30-ish pages anyway, I was just out of it in the story. So even though there's only a little bit left, I like wasn't fully invested basically since I last updated you. This book makes me feel awful. It makes me feel awful. And I think that's the intention of it. It's a horror book. It's a disturbing horror book. It's just filled with so much dread and so much misery that it was making me not want to read. It was ruining my mood. it was pulling me into the depths of despair with these characters. And also it just got kind of weird and confusing because it really starts blurring the lines of what's going on. This new character comes in and things get strange. And I was like, where's this going? What are we doing? Now things are getting even darker. And I have just been in a lighter mood recently. I've been wanting to watch and read more romance, more cozy things. I'm reading more cozy things than I ever have. I'm watching more romance than I ever have. I'm just in a lighter era right now. And this was really dragging me down. This was really, really dragging me down. So I am DNFing it. I don't think it's a bad book, and I don't want this to discourage anyone from reading this. I feel like this description might make someone even more intrigued to pick it up because a lot of times people are looking for that. I read a lot of dark stuff. Like there's a lot of times where I'm in the mood for something really dark and heavy. It's just not right now. And especially being in the middle of a readathon, it is not good to read something that's going to put me in a slump because I have not read much in the past 3 or 4 days because of this book. So that's not good. So it's gonna be a DNF for now. Maybe I'll revisit it in the future, finally finish it out when I'm in more of a place to read something this dark and upsetting. Also, like if you read a lot of dark, upsetting things, this is not the most disturbing thing I've ever read. I don't want people to then go and read it and be like, it's not even that bad. Because if this is something you're reading a lot of, it's really not. It's not that unconventional from a lot of horror, disturbing horror, and darker themes in books. It's something about the people being sick that I don't like. I've never read a book like this following characters who are sick, and something about that, I don't like it. I don't like it. So that's where I'm gonna leave it on this book for now. I will say, I think if you've never read from this author before, if you didn't read Anybody Home and you're like, I don't know if I even want to pick that book up or not, if you enjoy books from Eric LaRocca, I feel like this is good for people who like Eric LaRocca books, which I love Eric LaRocca books. And I've liked stuff from this author in the past. It's just right now, this isn't really fitting for me. But if you're looking for more stuff in that vein, then maybe check it out. See if it's something you enjoy. I have gotten a start in The Midnight Feast. So in the past couple of days, I haven't been reading much, but I did start The Midnight Feast a little bit, and I'm 24% into this, and I'm already having a much better time with this. I'm feeling better. I'm more in the mood to read again. I'm intrigued by the story, and I can't wait to keep reading it. I was not exactly sure what this book was going to be about, and then as I was starting to read it, I was kind of confused too. I'm like, what is this? Who are we following? What is the setup for this book? So I had to revisit the synopsis, and now that I'm 24% in, I'm feeling more settled in the story. But if you've read from Lucy Foley before, then you know that she likes to do stories with a lot of different POVs from different characters. I have read The Guest List and The Paris Apartment from Lucy Foley, and I have enjoyed both of those. I gave The Guest List 5 stars when I read it back when it first came out. The Paris Apartment, I don't remember exactly what I rated it, but it was definitely above a 3-star. I remember enjoying that book. And another thing that I feel like she does really well is atmosphere. And The Midnight Feast so far has been developing a lot of atmosphere in the beginning, which was also why it took me a second to get into the flow of the story and realize what was going on. So in the story, you're following several different characters at this place called The Manor. And this is this like high-end spa resort glamping kind of thing out in the middle of the woods, ran by this woman named Francesca and her partner Oscar. I think there's 2 different O names. I don't remember her partner's name, but her partner's an architect. They're married. He helped design the place. They're running this place called The Manor, and it's their grand opening going on right now. The locals are not happy about it because they think that this place is coming and ruining the land and gonna come and try to take up all these different areas. So people aren't super excited about this place being there. You're following some characters who are working at the manor and who also kind of live in the town. You're following Francesca's POV, and her husband's POV I think comes in a little bit as well. And then there's this woman Bella who is a guest who's visiting, and you're following her POV. So there's a lot of different characters. And the setup of this story is that something bad happens. It might be the night of a solstice. Let me confirm before I say something totally wrong. Okay, I don't think the synopsis actually says if it's a solstice or not. I think I just remember that being in the book. But on Sunday morning of the opening weekend, the local police get called. There's been a fire, a body's been discovered, something's not right with the guest, what happened on the grounds of the manor the past 36 hours, and who or what is the cause. That's the setup of this. This place is opening. Something went wrong, a body's been found, what went on. You're following the weekend leading up to that from multiple different POVs. Kind of reminding me of 9 Perfect Strangers by Liam Moriarty right now as well, just because of the themes of this. It's very wellness oriented. The owner is very interested in crystals and whatnot. And then there's also this cool thing where there's this lore in the town, this local legend that you have to be nice to the birds, because if you're not nice to the birds, bad things will happen to you. So there's this sort of witchy kind of quality to the book with all of these things coming together, and I'm really liking the atmosphere. It feels really different from my memory of what I've read from Lucy Foley in the past. I read her books as they come out, so it's always like a long span between me reading them. So I guess maybe if you read them back to back, you'd be like, this sounds like her writing style always is, because it's always multiple POVs and a mystery and whatever. But for me, like the themes of this, it feels like she's exploring a very different type of world than she has before. I'm very intrigued by it, and it's just exactly what I want to be reading right now, where it's sort of drama based, there's a mystery, and there's this eerie atmosphere to everything. So I'm really enjoying it so far. That's my first update. I'm going to keep reading this one. I will let you know how I feel about it as I read more in the story. It is so many days later, and I have now finally finished The Midnight Feast. I have officially hit the slump period of the month that I knew was coming. Being in a month-long readathon, a slump was inevitable. It came in this past week, and it took me a long time to get through this book and really all the books I read in this video. But I feel like now I'm really on the precipice of being able to finish the month strong and feeling invigorated again after getting through these books. Maybe it was just because they were like preordained that I had to read them. I don't know. A slump was gonna come either way, but I feel like I'm over it now. That's great. And I finished The Midnight Feast, so I can tell you my final thoughts on it. Unfortunately, they're not the best. I'm gonna give this book a 3-star. I think I would best categorize this book as a suspense, because in the beginning, you know that someone has died, you don't know who and you don't know how, which I believe was how the guest list was set up. I like that setup, it's intriguing, but the book's incredibly slow paced because of that. The whole time is just building from all these different POVs, the weekend leading up to the night when everything goes down, and then some flashes to the investigation that's going on, and just like little hints about what is left after the events of that night. There wasn't enough big moments or big reveals sprinkled throughout the story to feel like the story was really moving or changing. It was just like slowly dragging and leading you to this point. Once I got to like 75%, then more things start to happen, and really the last 10-15% of the book, it's like bam, 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 events are coming together, reveals are happening, things are happening. It's just such a slow build to get there. There's also journal entries from the past that are interspersed throughout the text as well, so a little bit of like understanding some of the historical context of what happened around this place. It wasn't bad, it's just really slow. So know that going in, it's gonna be a slow burn to get to the reveal. And then also the reveal, like nothing was groundbreaking to me. Some things were a little surprising, but for the most part, it kind of met my expectations in a way. So maybe a 3-star is kind of generous, but like I didn't hate it. It was just kind of like a cozy read. Something about this woodsy atmosphere to it made it feel cozy and intriguing. And I guess because it was slow, that gives it kind of a cozy feel too. So I thought it was okay. I had a fun time with it. It's probably my least favorite of Lucy Foley's so far, but I would still not hesitate to recommend it generally to most people. So that is my final thoughts on The Midnight Feast, and that puts a wrap on this reading vlog, which unfortunately was not the most successful. I did not really end up with a standout that I am like screaming from the rooftops telling you to go pick up, but that can't happen every time. I had a really successful reading vlog the last reading vlog I did, so this one I guess was bound to be a little bit less exciting, but I'm glad I got through some new releases, some arcs that I needed to read this month anyways, and now I'm reinvigorated for the rest of the month. Got some really exciting reads for the rest of the month that I'm excited to jump into, and a couple days to try to finish the readathon very strong. Let me know down in the comments below if you plan on reading any of these books, but that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!